massive human trafficking. A record 288 people arrested.
They're not reporting the real numbers.
The numbers are segmented and they are fictitious.
I started my career in 1997 in the United States Border Patrol. It was one of the most violent times in recent Border Patrol history. I made my bones and my reputation on that border. I believe what is happening on the border today is intentional.
We have people in the United States of America that breed children in order to sell them.
Our own government is facilitating the absolute destruction of the American immigration system. And I can prove it point by point. I'm unafraid to speak the truth. This is just data-driven and experience-driven.
Before I let you go, I want you to address one thing, and it's just the absurdity of it. Some of the internet rumors that somehow Israel is behind the Charlie Kirk murder, and I don't believe it for 1 second, but I want you to make a statement. It's so absurd.
That's insane. That's insane. Israel also changes the orbit of the moon. Israel pushes the sun. I mean, the whole thing it's not only insane. I think it's so absurd, so stupid, and so ridiculous. You can't believe that people are saying that. They just found the perpetrator. They'll get to the bottom of this, but they go. They have no limits. When you hate Jews, when you hate the Jewish state, you're willing to say anything and promote all these absurd rumors. And by the way, they're willing to kill us all the time. I mean, that's what they're doing. And over the centuries, when Jews, especially in the Middle Ages, the horrific Middle Ages, the worst things were said about Jews you couldn't possibly believe. We were poisoning the wells. We were drinking the blood of Christian children. You name it. I mean, these things, that continued actually up to the Holocaust. The Nazis said the same thing. We're carrying vermin. We're spreading disease. And people believed it. And every time they believed it, this was a prelude to a greater and greater massacre, culminating with the worst massacre of them all, the Holocaust. Well, since then, we've learned, when people spread these lies about us, prepare yourself for the assault. And, they're trying to delegitimize the state of Israel. Charlie Kirk said to me that, he wrote me this detailed letter, you have to fight the slander. These untruths, these vilifications have consequences. And he was right. But I'll tell you one thing, we're fighting on the battlefield against the terrorists and winning. And he was fighting on the battlefield of ideas. And I think he was winning. He was going to win. That's why they shot him. I hope they don't silence him. I don't think people will give in to these ridiculous lies.
But I don't think it's helpful for people to jump in, particularly foreign heads of state, to say, this is what, he lived for my cause or whatever. That's disgusting, actually. Don't do that. That turns everybody off. You don't help your own cause by doing that. And it's also literally untrue.
But Charlie was very clear that he could support Israel. And by the way, he did eventually support the strikes on the nuclear facility while simultaneously saying, no more. This can't become a bigger thing. This can't become a broader thing. And again, I think he modeled a really good way of applying pressure, of disagreeing when you do disagree, but also recognizing that so long as you're operating in good faith, we're all part of the team. And that's something I'm going to try to take from Charlie's legacy is not that we're always right, not that we can't take criticism, but that we all should try to work together.
It did worry me because I think your description is perfect. He was one of the very few who took that message and stood by it. I mean, right to the very end. This cannot get bigger. We don't want another regime change war. But man, some of the people who send money to Turning Point, his donors, were very tough on him. So tough on him that I could feel it. I talked to him a lot in the last few months, and he was under enormous pressure. He never bent. He never became bitter.
He kept his integrity to the very end.
To the very end. And I just think it's important.
And Jewish donors, they have a lot of explaining to do, a lot of decoupling to do, because Jewish donors have been the number one funding mechanism of radical, open border, neoliberal, quasi-Marxist policies, cultural institutions, and nonprofits. This is a beast created by secular Jews. And now it's coming for Jews, and they're like, what on earth happened? And it's not just the colleges. It's the nonprofits, it's the movies, it's Hollywood, it's all of it. It's like, time for you guys to wake up and say no more, draw a line in the sand. I don't care if you hate me, right? But if I have any deviation of a purity test, any deviation whatsoever, such as hosting a focus group, right, Megan, with a bunch of our students that went viral, having Dave Smith or Tucker at my event, it is all of a sudden, oh, Charlie is he's no longer with us and all that. I said, wait a second, what do you mean? What does with us mean exactly? Right? Mm-hmm. I'm an American, okay? Like I represent this country, and I don't even understand that paradigm. But Megan, I think you would agree with this. I want to make sure we really zero in on this. Personality types like you, myself, and Tucker, the more that you guys privately and publicly call our character into question, which is not isolated, right? Megan, it would be one thing if it was one text or two texts. It is dozens of texts.
Yes.
Then we start to say, hold the boat here. And to be fair, some of my really good Jewish friends are like, that's not all of us, it's all, but these are leaders too, though, right? These are stakeholders, right? And so, look, I'm afraid because again, I want you probably get the negative, oh, you're just shilling for Israel, whatever. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do what's right regardless of the feedback, right? But then all of a sudden, like I host a person that I moderate the debate of, mind you, right? And I give equal time to Josh Hammer, equal time to a pro-Israel advocate, and my moral character is being put into question. And so I think it's a hyper paranoid, like we're just going to we're going to just stamp out everything type of practice. But it goes to the point where if, for example, if I have less ability sometimes online to criticize the Israeli government about backlash than actual Israelis do. Mm-hmm. And that's really, really weird, isn't it, Megan?
It's not so right. Wrong-headed.
I've been to Israel many times. The whole country's a fortress. When I first heard this story, I still have the same gut instinct that I did initially. I find this very hard to believe. I've been to that Gaza border. You cannot go 10 feet without running into a 19-year-old with an AR-15 or an automatic machine gun that is an IDF soldier, right? The whole country is surveilled. And so let me just kind of go through this. We don't talk about Israeli politics very often, and most Americans don't know this. The last 9 months, Israel is on the brink of civil war. It's not an exaggeration. This judicial stuff, there were hundreds of thousands of Israelis taking to the streets because Bibi Netanyahu is basically redefining the Israeli constitution. That's not an exaggeration, right? He said the judicial branch has too much power. There were protests planned this week against Netanyahu, where they anticipated tens of thousands of people to take to the streets. That's all gone, Patrick. Netanyahu now has an emergency government and a mandate to lead. I'm not willing to go so far that saying that Netanyahu knew or there was intelligence here, but I think some questions need to be asked. Was there a stand down order? Was there a stand down order? 6 hours? I don't believe it. Israel's the size of New Jersey. When I took a helicopter ride from Jerusalem to the Gaza border, it's 45 minutes. Wow. 6 hours. They're live streaming the killing of Jews. Did somebody in the government say stand down? That is a legitimate, non-conspiracy question. The whole country is the IDF. The whole country is. Yeah. And you're trying to tell me that they're going to concerts and kibbutzes and schools and Charlie, we've pushed back against the media on COVID, on lockdowns, on Ukraine, on the border, so maybe we should also ask a question. Is the media totally presenting the truth when it comes to Israel? Just a question, that maybe we shouldn't believe everything the media says, because I know I've been conditioned to ask a lot more critical questions over the last couple of years. So Ben, some people would accuse Israel of wanting to ethnically cleanse. Some people in the Israeli government are saying, again, it's all over the place, right? You have opinions all over. In your opinion, what would a good outcome 5 years from now be, and how does one respond to the claims of ethnic cleansing?
Welcome to Truth with J.J. Carrell. Why are we not allowed to talk about Israel? I think that's a valid question. Right now, as you're watching the show, over 250 of our congressmen and senators are over in Israel right now. 250. Between the time Charlie Kirk was shot and the time that there's 250 of our senators or state reps and all that overseas, our Senate, run by the Republicans, voted to not unseal all the Jeffrey Epstein documents. I don't believe in coincidences. I don't believe things happen randomly. I don't, never have. I believe everything is tied to one another. And we are seeing our nation and our leaders blackmailed, coerced by foreign governments. Let's say that the 250 state reps, congressmen, senators, I think it was last month, there was over 120 senators and congressmen from Republicans, and then the Democrats went to Israel, all paid by Israel. Let's assume that right now those 250 state reps, congressmen, senators are not in Israel. They're in Mexico City. And they're sitting there in Mexico City, and there's mariachi bands playing, and they're drinking, and there's maybe some people doing a couple lines of Coke. Would you have a problem with that? Going to education classes where our leaders are being indoctrinated by another government, Mexico. Would you have a problem with that? What if I said it's actually not in Mexico, it's actually Nigeria? You'd be okay with Nigeria? No. It's going, our group is going to Germany. No, they're in England. No, they're in Ireland. No, they're down in Australia now. You get the point? It wouldn't be okay in any of those nations. I don't want my representatives being brought in for education classes by any other foreign government. None. Zero. So why are we sitting here and Israel? Bibi Netanyahu is now being reported to have offered Charlie Kirk $150 million for Charlie Kirk to be all in on Israel. Propaganda. We are now hearing from Candace Owens. We're hearing from Max Blumenthal. We're hearing from Nick Fuentes. We're hearing from other people that are outside of each other that have same or different sources saying that Bill Ackman was in a basically a come to, they're not Christians, so they can't have a come to Jesus, so a come to Yahweh moment with Charlie Kirk in the Hamptons, where supposedly Charlie Kirk was dressed down and told by his donors, "You're going to snap too, son." That must have been an impressive meeting. I'm having a discussion with my wife last night, and I said, Charlie Kirk, as incredible as he is, and he was incredible, and the company, organization that he created, takes a lot of skill to create something. Create anything, but to create something at that scale. It was not organic, was it? Now we're not finding out it was organic. We're finding out that numerous Jewish billionaires funded it. And I think Charlie Kirk was an intellectually honest guy, and he was pushing the Israeli narrative. And it got to the point where he got educated by other people, because someone that is intelligent as Charlie Kirk he doesn't stop learning. He's constantly intaking information, digesting it, trying to figure out what is the truth. And I think I'm looking at the videos of this man where he is all in on Israel and everything, and anyone against Israel is wrong, and they're wrong-headed to, wait a minute, I need to ask a question about October 7th. Wait a minute, why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? I don't want anything to do with you people. That was a fast transformation. That was not a transformation over, say, a year, 18 months. where you're kind of learning and meeting people. No, this was a rapid descent from Israel to, I maybe made a mistake. And people like that, people like Charlie Kirk, highly intelligent people, that must have been a massive amount of information that he digested and came and then and marinated in to come to that decision that quick. How did Charlie Kirk get to be all Israel all the time? Well, his mentor, this is Rabbi Wolicki. Let's listen to him. Just listen. I just want you to play, Thomas, just a minute and 5 seconds of it. Just listen to the words that this man uses to describe his conversation or conversations with Charlie Kirk.
And Charlie had criticisms for the state of Israel. He was very supportive and really loved the state of Israel and the Jewish people, but he also had his criticisms. And it really hurt him when the Jewish community came down on him for platforming certain speakers at his last conference who were anti-Israel and even slid into anti-Semitism. And while I was not happy that Charlie had given the stage to people like Tucker Carlson who were spewing venom about the Jewish state, I understood where Charlie was coming from. Charlie was a big believer in the open marketplace of ideas and allowing all opinions to be heard, letting the best opinions win. That's why he built his career on those famous debates, going to college campuses to engage in honest dialogue, letting every opinion have its moment and letting people decide what is true. And therefore, he really believed, to a fault, I believe, in allowing every single voice to be heard. Now, again, was I happy that he was platforming people who were spewing anti-Israel and anti-Semitic messages? Of course.
Isn't it funny how every time somebody has a criticism about Israel, we hate Jews? Isn't that amazing? I criticize Iran. I don't hate all Iranians. The Ecuadorians, I really don't know about them, but if I had an argument with their president, I don't hate the Ecuadorians. So why is it when I have a problem with Israel, I'm anti-Semite? And listen to what that man said. Charlie Kirk, to a fault, allowed people of all ideas to speak. Well, I thought that was the point. That was the point of how you learn. You allow everyone to speak. See, conservatives, not Republicans, conservatives, Christians love to allow everyone to speak because we want to know. I want to know who my adversary is. I want to know who the other side is. And quite honestly, I want my beliefs challenged. I want to put them through a stress test. Whenever I'm asked to go speak on a speaking event or somebody asks me, hey, can you come on my show? But it's going to be a debate. Love it. Love it. I'm like Charlie Kirk. I want to debate? Absolutely. Let's debate. Not because I want to get in a fight with you. It's because this is my way of stress testing my ideals, my beliefs, and then sharpening my responses, my ability to use evidence and facts and figures to back up my beliefs. That's why you see Charlie Kirk when he's arguing and debating on college campuses, why he seems so happy is because he's stress testing everything he believes. And he's getting, every time he has a disagreement or has to have a retort back, he is sharpening his skills. It's like being a weightlifter. I'm going to the gym. I'm going to get bigger and stronger. I'm a football player. I'm going to run my routes better. I'm going to practice. That's all Charlie Kirk was doing. He was practicing in real time in a game. And this guy that was his mentor, someone that he bounced ideas off of, everything's anti-Semitic. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered about Israel. Have you ever asked yourself why we give billions of dollars to a first world nation? And how that money, well, I'm going to answer that for you. We give billions of dollars to Israel. Israel then gives it to AIPAC, and AIPAC then pours it back to the politicians. That's how they're laundering the money. Everything, all money is laundered through NGOs. All of it. I think it's 98% of our politicians have AIPAC handlers. They call them handlers. One-on-one handlers. How did our Republican Senate just kill the bill that releases everything on Epstein? Oh, a lot of people don't know that happened. That happened a day or two after Charlie Kirk was murdered. They used the chaos to continue the lie. Now they're passing a bill, or try to pass a bill, that any contractor that works for the federal government cannot boycott Israel. What does that have to do with anything to do with someone that's going to build something for the government, provide some service for the government? So now, as individual companies and citizens, we don't like what a country does, we can't do that? Well, no, you can do that with the other 194 countries, 193 countries. You just can't do it to one, Israel. What? Yeah. All the other countries you can boycott, you can do whatever you want, but you can't say anything bad about Israel or boycott it. Wake up, America. Can you wake up in the realm of consciousness? I got Ann Vandersteel coming in. Can't wait. I really want to hear her take on all this. Before we do, I want to talk about sat123.com. Be prepared. Do you think this is the only school shooting? Is the last Minnesota one? It's going to stop after that, right? Right? There's going to be no more going into churches and killing beautiful little kids as they kneel in the pews praying to Jesus. You don't think that's going to happen again? Don't worry about 2,000 to 3,000 people in an event, Charlie Kirk, and shots fired. That's never going to happen again. You're not going to be in a mass shooting. You're not going to be in any kind of problem. Yes, you will. And that's my pitch. My pitch every single day about Sat123 is be prepared. My son has a ballistic backpack. I have one. My wife has one. Why? Why wouldn't you? That's the better question. Are you telling me that some of the students there in that Utah school wouldn't have loved to have been running away with a backpack covering their back as they're running, as the shot is, and they're thinking there's got to be more shots? Do you think when there is another flood and all the cables are cut and your internet and your phone lines and your communications shot and you're sitting there and you're just like, oh my God, please let my child be okay. I got to get a hold of my child. Where's my child? Where's my wife? Where's my husband? Oh, my son has a sat phone. My wife, my daughter has a sat phone. Let me call that sat phone. I have connectability. If I have connectability, I can make plans. And if I can make plans, I can survive. And if I can survive, then we have another day to live. I know you feel on some level what I feel. And what I feel is some despair, some feeling of the shoe's going to drop. I have the feeling as if nothing makes sense. I have the feeling that we are not centered as a nation. We are not godlike. We are not within God's natural order. And therefore we feel this sense of chaotic overload, chaos. You may not feel it the way I do. You may feel it more than me. You may feel it less. You may poo-poo what I'm feeling, but you have some sense. You have some understanding of what I'm saying. I know you do. That's why you're watching this show. Be prepared. Just do me a favor and go to sat123.com. Just go there. And just look at their products. And just ask the simple question to yourself, do I need that? I do that all the time. Do I need that? Yes, I need a sat phone. Yes, I need a Starlink. Yes, I need a generator. Yes, I need a backpack. Do I need a Faraday bag? Yes, I do need a Faraday bag. Go to sat123.com/JJ and just look and ask yourself that question. Do I need that? This world is on fire. It's just on fire. What do you believe anymore? Do you believe that Israel has no connection to America? That has no influence? Do you believe that Jeffrey Epstein was a lone wolf? I interviewed someone today, this morning actually, and I'm going to put it up. Thomas, I think we'll be putting that interview up of Hope Green probably tomorrow or the next day. Maybe probably on Thursday. We will put some clips out tomorrow on it. Who is Hope Green? Hope Green was MK Ultra survivor, Jeffrey Epstein victim. She was horrifically raped, tortured for 31 years at the hands of the Clintons, the Bidens, the Obamas. And she lays it out. We talked for about an hour and a half today, I think it was. And I asked her hard questions. I asked her to be very specific. Do you think that Epstein has no connection to the blackmail and the uneasiness we feel in America? Why would your government seal the evidence of Jeffrey Epstein? Honestly, stop for a second and ask yourself that simple question. Why would anyone seal evidence? It has nothing to do with me. I'm innocent. I don't have any guilt. My family, my friends, no one's ensnared in this horrific torture and sex trade. So if I'm a senator, I'm like, hell yeah, I want everything brought to light. Why are we hiding this? You're hiding it because the people that are to your left and to your right are involved in it. That's why. As intel agencies told me when I did my documentary, What is Treason Traffic, they told me, JJ, that congressmen and senators are pedophiles. Presidents are pedophiles. I've interviewed two people, highly credible. Dr. Juliet Engel, and now Miss Hope Green. And I've listened to other interviews people had of MK Ultra. It's all the same and different. And like Hope Green said today in our interview, she said, what I'm telling you happened to me, no one can make up. Like, there's no realm in my imagination that I would concoct something that like this. I just wouldn't. I couldn't. How would I know this? Same thing with Dr. Juliet Engel. This happened to me. I know it sounds crazy. I know it doesn't sound, but it is. Here it is. December 2024, there was a dump of MK Ultra. Dumped it. The federal government dumped it on a Friday night right before Christmas, I think it was, dumped. Church Commission, 1975, said, yeah, MK Ultra was real. Operation Paperclip was real. We brought all the Nazi scientists over from Nuremberg when they should have been killed. We brought them over and then installed them in NASA, in our intel agencies, in our education institutions and scientific communities, and let them go and continue their experiments. No, that's a fact. That's a fact. It's not even a question anymore. What is real anymore? of my buddies texted me today and was just saying, I don't even know what to believe. And I said, we are living in the Matrix. We are living in the Matrix. Some of us have taken the red pill and we're seeing things now. Not all of it, because we don't see all of it yet. It has not been displayed to us, but enough has been shown to me that I know for a fact that I trust no one. And I don't care how that makes me sound. I don't trust anyone. Anyone. I'm curious when Ann gets in here. I want to bounce these ideas off of her and let her know what's going on. I want to play, Thomas, can I play number 12? And I want to preface this with, it is impossible to ignore the anti-Israel beliefs raging around the world. And the reason why I'm focusing in on Israel today is because anybody that has any intellectual honesty has to discuss this, because that is everywhere. It is in every social media. It is being talked about ad nauseum by everyone because something real is happening. I don't know all the answers, but I sure as the hell I'm not going to sit here and go, oh boy, I better not say anything bad about Israel. No, I have some questions. There are some things that have to, historical facts that have to be adjudicated, if you will. So I want to bounce these ideas. I want to stress test my ideas with Ann. And I just want to ask her I have a couple videos that I want to show her and just get her perspective, because I trust her. I trust her views. And her views are not always aligned with mine. Sometimes they're different. Not aligned, but a different perspective, right? And I like to see that. I like to see that stress test on my ideals and my beliefs. Because we are in very strange times. Very strange times. Can you, Thomas, while we're waiting for Ann, can you go and pull up my vault video of Under the Rainbow just to show people? I don't know if you have that clip ready that you can just show it. This is the 200. If Thomas can't find it, I'm going to explain it to you. Okay, he's got it. This is 250 of our legislators, state, local, federal, in Israel getting re-educated. And I want you to, you don't think I'm making this up. They're being serenaded and re-educated. Watch this. Over the rainbow, birds fly. These birds fly over the rainbow, writhing around, can't I? This is Yaron Dachar on the piano. Thomas, can you do what we did on the vault? Can you just show my audience that the framing of this, what that frame behind them is? I know this is absurd. I know that you're watching this and you're thinking to yourself, what is JJ showing? This is obviously a spoof. No. And if you look in the backdrop, what that says, 50 states, one Israel. Repeat that. 50 states, one Israel. Why do we have 50 states, one Israel? Why is it not 50 states, United States of America? Why are they being serenaded about Under the Rainbow? Why are they getting re-educated or educated
about the importance of Israel to America. What if that was in Germany? What if that was in Mexico? What if that was in Burma? We'd all have the same thing. We'd all have the same question. What in the hell are we doing? What the hell are we doing? Ann Vandersteel, thank you for coming back on the show. How are you doing today?
I'm in suspended disbelief, to be honest. I'm still upside down about what happened last week. I haven't fully recovered because I'm cycling through the grief of it all. You know, I really am. I had not been a devout follower of Charlie for the last few years because I saw him really leaning into the RNC Rhino narrative and just way too hard into the establishment shills that were taking President Trump and his administration, his presidency down the path of ill repute, getting behind serious rhinos. So I really missed the last 3 weeks of this young man's life and his about face. And of course, we're now learning about these meetings he had with Ackerman and others. And we're now learning that he was in fear of his life. And look, when you get a phone call from somebody the day after our election, somebody who is a member of a very prominent family in a country over in the Middle East, I don't want to say which country because I'll give away the family, but this person calls and says to you, congratulations on the peaceful transference of power from Israel to Israel. You know, he calls us, you know, the what did he call us? The global elite. But he says, you know, he's congratulating America on our election, on the peaceful transference of power from Israel to Israel. And this is somebody whose family is very well connected in all of that. And I don't even, again, I'm not going to say which country, which family, because I will dox this individual. I don't want to, because they're a very great man. He's a great man. But when you hear that from somebody who definitely knows, because they circulate in these groups of people, it's really a problem. And unfortunately, Charlie Kirk is a victim of waking up. You know, he himself was a devout Christian and, you know, clearly believed in God, but he also swallowed the narrative, and he finally woke up to the fact that there's a difference between the nation state of Israel and actually, you know, biblical Hebrews. He understands there's a difference, and he also started to understand that they were hiding behind the word Israel or Jew and using anti-Semitic, you know, narratives and tropes to, you know, deflect what they were really doing. And this goes back decades. I mean, this goes back, you know, World War II and the turn of all of that, and Mossad and the CIA. Let's face it, the CIA and Mossad, there's no daylight between those organizations. And, you know, the Prime Minister Ben-Gurion, going back, you know, this has been a long-standing goal. You know, Ben-Gurion talked about making Jerusalem basically the capital of the world. And, you know, that was their goal. So when Trump moved our embassy to Jerusalem, it's no wonder they named a town after him, Trump Heights. He was helping fulfill what the non-biblical Hebrews of Israel were trying to do. And then you have to peel back and you look at the fact that, you know, Germany and the UK and the powers that be that run those countries are related, French as well. And you wonder why Israel has such a is so well represented in Paris and France. And then you wonder, why did they let London fall to Islam? And we wonder why, you know, if Israel is truly at war with Islam, you know, who is really creating all this narrative? Who is fomenting this civil war? Why are we getting it from so many different, you know, directions? It's designed to destroy America. It's designed to destroy the one country that still stands up for the First and Second Amendment. Although after listening to Pam Bondi, you have to wonder if the First Amendment means anything to this administration. And I know she's trying to correct and walk it back, but it's too late. She said it, and the fact that we still don't have a real assessment with a real FBI going after who really killed Charlie Kirk and talking about the things that Charlie Kirk was waking up to tells us, you know, this administration isn't ready to have that conversation. And possibly this administration is captured by the very people who were threatening Charlie Kirk. Candace Owens, bravo, sister. She's out there spewing the truth. She's irate. She is beside herself. And I stand right beside her in my ire and fury. I mourn the loss of a great man who I feel badly that I didn't pay enough attention to see the turning. But you know what? I am not going to let that man's murder and assassination go by in vain. As his beautiful wife and children are left with a father, I'm concerned about the people that are surrounding them now. And if they're going to try and steer this in there, look at the amount of effort that Israel is putting, not Israel, the people, the government of Israel is putting into capturing the real story of Charlie Kirk and his relationship and what he thought of. I'd like to see Benjamin Netanyahu produce that letter he claims Charlie wrote. I'll be shocked to see what comes back. I doubt it's going to be what Charlie actually said. So this is where I am, JJ. I'm sickened. I'm in disbelief. I'm going through the stages of grief. Not only because of what happened with Charlie, but where America stands. And I am hearing through grapevines, churches are coming out in force. But if there's going to be another, tie a yellow ribbon around the tree and put a flag on your car thing like we did while we sign up for the Patriot Act, count me out. I want Americans to get up off the freaking mat and fight back. Stop signing in and becoming part of this cabalist government that is selling out to a country that has been dragging us in to fake wars or real wars over fake reasons, the WND narrative, for too long. I'm done signing up and sucking up to another country. We do not need to. We are God's second covenant nation. We don't need a government, another country stealing the biblical history. That's where I am with all of this.
Everything that we are being told about this shooter and about this shooting makes no sense, Ann. It makes no sense. The FBI is contradicting themselves. Kash Patel says there's a letter, but then it was destroyed. Well, wait a minute. Wait a minute, my man. What are you talking about? Someone destroyed evidence? Hold on. Okay, well, who got arrested? Who got arrested? Well, nobody. Well, okay. What the hell's going on? This guy that shot Charlie Kirk never really had practice. He assembled his gun, and we're being told that he assembled his gun on the rooftop. So people are telling this, so the audience understands, when you put a sight on your gun, you just don't line up and shoot it and the bullet goes to where the sight is. You have to shoot several rounds. It's called sighting in. So I have to shoot several rounds, adjust my sight. Okay, I'm off to the right, I'm off to the left. Okay, bam, correct. I got it. That takes time. Takes a lot of time to sight in. And then he breaks it down, and then he escapes, and then he goes to the woods and reassembles the gun, and then leaves the gun in the woods. We're never going to hear the truth, Ann. I really believe that. And I want to play this clip by Steve Bannon and talking about this is not a single murder. And I just want to get your take on it. Can you play this for us, Thomas, number 9?
This was being treated as a single murder. It's not a single murder. This is not a single murder of a great man. There's a vast conspiracy in back of this. Antifa needs to be designated as a domestic terrorist organization. And hey, if you want to make it international terrorist, there's plenty of evidence of that. In fact, it came out of Europe. The trans part of this is a subset of that. That is also a conspiracy, an active conspiracy, a terrorist organization. Needs to be investigated. The New York Post has got has a great piece up. We'll put it up in a little while as we discuss this. It's now being, the law enforcement is now focused, and there was a lot of law enforcement that was fighting this. They want to treat it as a simple murder. It's not a simple murder. This is far deeper and far more malignant. And that's why in the next 2 weeks, to make sure we go after that, and any foreign money that came in, any foreign influence that came in from the Chinese Communist Party to Soros to others, Arabella, all of it. They have 3 levels. They have the first level of the Antifa, and the transgender radicals, or the kind of the foot soldiers, right? Then they have a second level. You're going to be shocked. That second level is made up of what's infiltrated the military. No, it's not white nationalism or white extremism, extremist politics. That's what they try to sell under Biden's regime. You have members of the military that are radicalized. You've seen this in some of the posts about Charlie Kirk, but you have many that are in there deep that are training and working. You heard Tage Gill that are working with Antifa and training Antifa. And then you have the top level, and that's the people that are trying to destroy this country, the financiers in the networks of globalist financiers and others that are using this to foment a civil war here in the United States of America.
Ann, what's your response to that?
So first of all, I want to walk it backwards a little bit. Steve Bannon talking about we have radicalized members of our United States military. I can tell you that for a fact. I've attended graduation ceremonies at some of the military institutions, and I'll tell you right now that back in 2019, I know for a fact that graduates at some of the officer schools were coming out anti-Trump, openly hating them, talking about how he was a moron. So this was coming directly from the education they were receiving at these institutions. I spoke to yesterday one of my sources who is actually training. They are former military, but they're doing some training with military right now in special operations. And they tell me that, yes, members of the military are completely radicalized and they're being paid to train Antifa. And I said, well, how are they getting paid? Cryptocurrency was his response. So there is a very dark network. I mean, look, we've all talked to Sean Taylor. I've interviewed him. This gentleman who is a former assistant police chief. He's been 15 years putting together the money trails coming out of the cartels. And we see the money going through these banks in Canada, including some of our investment house banks here in New York City. And it's being laundered through mortgage fraud. There is a number of ways they're laundering this money to pay anybody and everybody that they want to use to foment this color revolution in this country, arm and organize all types of factions, whether it's our own military, whether it's Antifa, or it's people pretending to be MAGA, as in the case with the FBI, dressing up as the, quotes, Patriot Front. But of course, you never see their faces because they walk around and parading with masks over themselves and hats and sunglasses, carrying these flags in their FBI-issued pants and uniforms, pretending to be that of a patriot. It's so disgustingly obvious at this point. But again, to the untrained eye and to the person who's not watching these shows, that is just out there living their lives, they're now starting to think that the conservative movement is the one that's going to foment this civil war. I've really got to believe that the death of Charlie Kirk is going to actually wake up the center left right now, and those just to the left of center on the left, because you cannot see that. And if you're seriously a good individual and you just have some left-leaning ideology, that's the solution to shutting somebody up by just blowing their neck open on live television in front of hundreds of millions of people around the world. That's just not the answer, and most sane people will agree with that. The hardcore left that we're seeing exhibited on these social media posts, those people should be made a public spectacle of, and they should lose their jobs, essentially, because people should stop patronizing wherever it is they work. And they should be the reason that they have to be released, because they brought such ire, and they've caused, companies to lose business, whether they work at fast food or whatever. Steve Bannon is not wrong in any of his assessment. The one thing I really want to know more about, though, and this is an honest question, if we are now looking at a nation state as the problem here, under our oath of office, and I know you've taken it, and with any luck, you'll be reaffirming that oath here anytime now, JJ. But under that oath, we have to talk about enemies, foreign and domestic. I spoke to somebody who talks to high-level intelligence people all the time, and they said, Ann, I think we should have everybody, including President Trump, add to the nation state of Israel as a foreign terror threat. Let's ask them, any nation state, including and up to Israel, if they're a problem, should, we stand against them. I think people need to say it, because when you have 50% of Congress, and most everybody, with the exception of a couple of people having AIPAC handlers, the biggest lobby we have is an Israeli lobby, Public Affairs Council, American Israeli Public Affairs Council is the biggest lobby in DC. And half those people have Israel dual citizenship. Yeah, we need to find out, if we find out that Israel is the bad, evil one behind all this, which evidence is starting to really point in that direction, then they need to denounce it, remove their citizenship, and or be removed from public service, because clearly they're public enemy number one.
There seems to be an overwhelming amount of talk about Israel. What's their connection? Connected to Charlie Kirk? How did they have a role in it? And you alluded to, or you talked about this in the beginning of our conversation. He did it about face. And I talked about this before you came on, Ann. It wasn't a slow, someone like Charlie Kirk gets a lot of information. He had a gift from God where he could take in information, digest it, and then push it back out in a very layman's term. But that about face usually takes a time. There's a months, maybe a year, maybe 2 years to get to that point from where I'm all in on Israel. Israel's the greatest thing in the world to I have to question everything. Holy smokes, what happened? And now we're finding out that he was offered $150 million by Netanyahu to fund Turning Point USA, that the vast majority of everyone that was funding Turning Point USA were Jewish billionaires. You can't stop looking at this, Ann. You can't just say, I'm going to look at Charlie Kirk, Turning Point USA, our government cut out Israel and say, well, Israel has nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
Well, and then Bibi Netanyahu, the leader of a nation, Ann, that's at war, takes time out to talk about Charlie Kirk. That's insane, Ann. That's absolutely insane.
Well, again, Charlie Kirk was calling out Epstein, Mossad, and again, I saw a clip recently where Judge Napolitano was talking about the fact that he had a phone call with President Trump and asking him before Trump's first term was over, as he was getting ready to leave after January 6th, and he said, "Sir, you haven't fulfilled one of the promises you made to me and to America." And President Trump said, "Well, tell me what it is. I'll do it right away." He said, "You haven't released all of the JFK files." And President Trump pushed back and he said, "Listen, if you saw what I saw, you'd know why I can't, because, they'll come after me. They'll come after me." And President Trump told Judge Napolitano, when he pressed him, who is they? He said, "I can't tell you on an open phone line because there's about 14 other people listening to this phone call right now." So President Trump knew that if he released everything in the JFK files, that he would be taken out. Perhaps Charlie Kirk saw what was in those JFK files, or perhaps Charlie Kirk had a conversation with somebody like President Trump, and perhaps Charlie Kirk went out on a limb. Perhaps Charlie Kirk started to see an overwhelming abundance of evidence. He said that he spoke to somebody that was, familiar with what was in the JFK files. So perhaps he was the one who decided to go out and be the canary in the coal mine, but he didn't realize just how deadly, and I mean deadly serious, that Israel was about covering up the fact that they were behind the assassination of JFK. Lyndon Johnson was not a friend to JFK. He was clearly aligned and stood with Israel. And, that evidence is all over the internet. There's no secret there. I'm not revealing classified information here, JJ. What I'm talking about is when it's all the breadcrumbs are being dropped, and they're being dropped very, very rapidly. And you have to have Benjamin Netanyahu come on live TV and shrug his shoulders and dispel this myth, quoting to him that Israel had something to do with Charlie Kirk's assassination. Since when has a president of a country addressed a rumor like that? Unless,
Never.
of course, unless, of course, they're now backpedaling because they realize, our kimono is open and people are seeing us for what we are. And by the way, I saw Charlie Kirk, debate somebody on the existence of Palestine. And Charlie at that point did not believe Palestine was real. But I do believe now he knows that it is, and it was there before, and that the nation state of Israel didn't exist until 1948. But Israel, the biblical Hebrews that the Bible talks about, has been there for thousands of years. It's the nation state itself that, again, was orchestrated by Ashkenazis, not the biblical Hebrews. And this was all done through Lord Rothschild and the Balfour Declaration. So you're not going to sit there and tell me that a non-biblical Jew, which helped create the nation state of Israel, is going to it isn't behind what's going on with our banking system, which is what the real war is all about. We're looking right now at war from central bankers through trade routes and collateralizing the fact that they don't have anything to back up what they've done, which is basically print fiat currency from the EU to the United States dollar into an oblivion. Look at what's happening with gold. Gold tells the whole story right then and there. Gold is reaching all-time highs right now. Central banks all over the world, especially in the BRICS nations, are stocking it like it's going out of style tomorrow, because it is. It is changing so rapidly, and Israel and the city of London, which I believe has probably transferred most of its assets somewhere else because it's so infiltrated with the enemy of Israel, which is basically Islam. This is what we're dealing with right now. We're dealing with a wholesale liquidation of the American people. Everything that we believe we ever had, all the lies are being exposed, and it's happening in real time. And we have a casualty in this war, somebody who called it all out and wouldn't bow down and take the bribe. And Americans, I'm here to tell you, watch out, because this is coming out so quickly. Everything and anything is on the table. And again, we've heard the rumors of the Samson option. I believe that could be one of the biggest threats that's a reality that I hope we never find out to be true. Because if we do, it means part of us, and maybe many of us, won't be here anymore. This is how serious a time we're living through right now.
I agree, Ann, and I don't think that we have any idea, truly any idea, what is waiting for us. I don't. And you and I jokingly say to each other every time we leave, what are we going to talk about next week? Could we imagine what we talked about from last week to now, that the murder, the assassination of Charlie Kirk, it is still unreal, hard to believe, but it's true. And this is the world we live in. Ann, thank you so much. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you, JJ. God bless you.
God bless you too. Ann Vandersteel, find her at Van Vandersteel or AnnVandersteel.com. Also, her movie, which we didn't get a chance to talk about, her new documentary, Taken, was critically acclaimed in Boston. Go to see that. You can go to AnnVandersteel.com. I believe that link is right on her website called Taken. What do you believe anymore? Saw a remake last night of Total Recall. Pretty good remake. And as I'm watching that, I'm thinking about my life and everything that's happening. I'm thinking, what is real? Your head is on a swivel right now. What is it that is the truth? I interviewed, like I said earlier, Miss Green, Hope Green, MK Ultra, trafficked through it. Jeffrey Epstein. Epstein bought her at 5 and held her for decades. And to listen to the satanic, the demon, the evil. There are times where I feel and think, where do I begin? There's so much evil. Where do I begin? What do I talk about? And then as you go through these criminal acts, these evil, criminal, treasonous acts, nobody goes to jail. Joe Biden, through Mayorkas, allowed in 30 million people in 4 years. No one went to jail. Epstein, no one's going to jail except one person. And she's in jail for trafficking ghost to other ghost. There's no crime because no one that participated in the quote crime has been arrested. We live in uncertain times. There are demons walking the earth. Demons walking the earth. You can see them. You can physically see them. Pray for our country. Pray for your soul. And do something that God wants you to do, and that is get in the fight. Because we are in a war for the soul of America. It is happening right now. The demons have been on the battlefield, and we have ignored their battle cries. So they just continually kill us. When are we going to engage them on the battlefield and take our country back and save our children and our wives? When are we going to do that, America? When are we going to live in a righteous, honest, and truthful time? I don't know when, but I'm tired of living in this cesspool of morality right now.